Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Monday Tsene with Pretoria Psychologists. My name is Muleya. I'm an industrial psychologist and I'll be speaking to you today about the notion of man and responsibility. May I please ask that you locate today's talk as a conversation and not a lecturer, which means I'm not going to tell you the truth about what it means to be a man, but instead I'm starting a conversation which I hope we can continue at home and in our respective circles. The purpose of today's conversation is to build men and strengthen them instead of criticizing them, while at the same time creating a space for us to actually hold one another accountable as men. So there are three dominant schools of thought from which we can understand the idea of what it means to be a man. The obvious one has to do with the biological lens, whereby you are considered a man if you have certain physical characteristics that are different from that of a woman. The second lens is that of societal expectations. Irrespective of what culture or religious background you come from, there are certain expectations that are placed on you as a male figure in terms of how you are supposed to exist in the world. And in almost all cultures and all religious groups, two fundamental issues are always raised as defining characteristics of what it means to be a man. And those characteristics or fundamental issues that are placed upon men by society have to do with the notion of providing safety and security for yourself and your loved ones, and the notion of providing financially and otherwise. In other words, society from all walks of life and from different cultures and religions tells you that if you are unable to provide financially and you are unable to take care and provide safety for yourself and your loved ones, you are not man enough. That is the conversation that we are all familiar with. That is what society tells us. The third lens that we are going to consider is one of self-reflection. To be self-reflective means you must, as an individual, engage with the world and the ideas that the world purports unto you and decide for yourself how you actually want to define yourself. We are going to use self-reflection as a unit of analysis for us as men to decide for ourselves what it means to be a man in the world. As I have already alluded, society tells you that if you are unable to provide financially and otherwise, and you are unable to give safety for yourself and your family, then you are not man enough. Suppose that is true or is not true, that's besides the point. The point is, for ourselves as men in the world, what does it mean to be a man? If we were to take our own views and our own understanding of life and reflect on the question from an intra-personal point of view, how would we define ourselves in the world? If, for example, we are against the idea that people are telling us that to be a man, it means you must be a provider, you must provide financially, you must do this and that, and we say we don't like that definition of what it means to be a man. We would like to come up with our own definition. How would that definition look like? That is the fundamental purpose of this conversation. And interestingly, when you engage with most men out there, you find that even their own definition of what it means to be a man tends to conform to societal expectations. In other words, most of us, when we reflect for ourselves as to what does it mean to be a man, we tend to use the same two elements of providing safety and security as well as providing financial and otherwise as defining characteristics. What is the reason for this? The reason for this is that psychologically, the meaning of life, especially for men, is found in their ability to carry some weight. A man who's unable to do anything for himself or for the world struggles to find meaning in their own life. Suppose we agree that there is no agreed upon meaning of life. However, most people on earth will agree that the most important thing that every human being wants to do, including men, and especially for men, is to reduce pain and suffering for themselves and for other people. What does it mean to reduce pain and suffering? for yourself and for other people. Obviously, every individual will have their own different opinion regarding what does it mean to reduce pain and suffering for yourself and for other people. But if we just listen to the terminology itself, to reduce pain and suffering, it already tells you that you are expected to do something. So even at an intra level, you know that in order for your life to become meaningful, you need to do something. You need to carry some weight. You need to take responsibility for something. That is the interesting dichotomy about what society expects from us in relation to what we expect from ourselves. So it looks like men are not necessarily against taking responsibility. Men are not necessarily against doing things that help themselves and the world to become better. But men, in relation to women, seem to be uncomfortable with being told what to do by the world, being told what to do by your boss, being told what to do by the government, being told what to do by other people who don't negotiate with you from a position of respect. So suppose we agree that no one wants to be told what to do, and we say each individual must decide for themselves what is it that they want to do. Even then, the conversation locates back to the notion of responsibility, because when you have to decide for yourself what is it that you want to do with your life, it means you are acknowledging that you need to take responsibility for something. And it takes time and experience and conversations for us to get to a point where we're 100% sure what is it that we want to do with our lives. So what I would say, probably as a conversation starter, is that you need to continuously reflect what is it that you want to do with your life. And once you are engaged in that process, which is of course not a once-off process, it's an ongoing process. Once you are engaged in that process of trying to decide what is it that you want to do with your life, you need to continuously reflect on it and see if the load that you are carrying or the contributions that you are making are consistent with your values and they are consistent with the goals and visions that you've set for yourself. And in so doing, you then need to create some form of a schedule or a constellation of values that are going to guide your actions to move you towards the specific goal that you have set for yourself, so that you don't see yourself as useless and miserable in the world. You actually see yourself as another human being who's able to contribute something. But the idea of responsibility comes back to you, that you need to decide what you want to do with your life, and you need to carry a load that is heavy enough for you to feel challenged and for you to feel like you are actually contributing. And when you are doing that, for this thing to sound less antagonistic, you don't have to engage yourself the way the government or friends or family or other people engage with you from a position of antagonism and judgment. You can actually engage yourself from a position of love, understanding, and respect. If you are engaging yourself from a position of love, understanding, and respect, then you will start embracing responsibility as opposed to seeing it as something that the world is forcing upon you. The idea of engaging responsibility speaks to you not seeing responsibility as something that the world expects from you, but you see responsibility as a gift through which you can actually hold yourself accountable and try to make the world a better place. But like I said, this is a conversation that is ongoing and you need to think about it. But as men, we need to start seeing responsibility as something that we should embrace, and we should do so from a position of love. We should not bash ourselves to do what the world tells us. However, we should negotiate with ourselves to do things that help us to achieve the things that we want to achieve in our own accord. So thank you very much for your time. I hope you join us again for another session. Thank you and God bless.